Hello. Next up, I would like to invite Tai Jimenez to come on up. She studied with Madam in the 1980s, and then went on to dance as principal at Dance Theater of Harlem and Boston Ballet, and as guest artist with such company as New York City Ballet and Lar Lubavitch. After teaching at many institutions, she is now the director of the Dance Theater of Harlem School.
Some of you might recognize the journal. We're all encouraged to keep a journal of our ballet corrections. I wasn't really consistent about doing that back in the day, but joke's on me. Now I have to write everything down. So. I will never forget the art that blossomed at Madam's studio in Columbus Circle. Moira Dorsey's Mira, Queen of the Willies, whose soaring jumps took your breath away and made the audience audibly gasp. And Judith Fugate's bold Swanilda, Mindy's consistently flawless grand pirouettes, Danielle's innovative choreography for the Prix de Lausanne. Yes, I remember that, the cartwheels. Marie Raffa's piano playing and the great teachers, especially Jody Fugate and Jan Miller. Madam always held up an unapologetic mirror, and that was often hard to face. But if you could learn to see yourself from above and below, from the front and the back and the sides and in écarté, if you really had the courage to see, you would grow. She knew how to make the weak ones strong and the strong ones stronger. Dance Theater of Harlem artistic director Robert Garland and one of Madam's former students said, a lot of people can give class, but only a few can make dancers. And Madam made dancers. When looking for a studio, I needed look no further than Madam's advanced students and the professional dancers that flocked to her. I was 14 when I first came to Madam. She could see that I had a wounded self-esteem, due in part to having been ignored, humiliated, and tokenized for being Black in ballet. But Madam's studio was Black friendly. She recognized talent regardless of the color of one's skin. She held you to a very high standard, and that was a gift to me, to be seen and held accountable. In Madam's studio, we cried a lot. But we cried for the right reasons, because we so badly wanted to get it right. Patricia would soothe our tears, and Judith Fugate would remind us it's only ballet. And that would gently snap us out of our self-importance. Bobby would crack a joke, and Simon would restore harmony. Some days, she would guilt us to death and threaten to get the gun. Remember that? She'd pick off our weaknesses one by one, and if you survived all that, she would give you the keys of mastery. I finally decided I wanted those keys. I saw my chance in her. She called me a diamond in the rough, and I had the good sense to know that even a diamond had to start someplace, deep in the dark bowels of the earth, womb-like. We were her ballet children, her family, and her studio was home. She would make me stand in the front of the class and taught me that it was my job to cast myself as a leader in that class, and that the power to do so was within me still. Madam never gave up on me. She made me start over technically to undo all the bad habits I'd picked up along the way. We both lived in Queens, and she would continue coaching me on the E-train until she got off at Forest Hills. Madam had a distinct way of teaching placement. Tai Chick, she was big on nicknames, and you knew according to what she called you that day, her mood, and Tai Chick, hold the pole, take passe, don't sit in the hip, you're sitting in the hip, get up on your standing legs hip. I was a teenager and rather self-conscious, but we were in New York City after all, and no one batted an eyelash at our unlikely pairing. Madam's way was unwavering, irreverent, thorough, structured, creative, demanding, and nurturing. She shone a light on our potential and gave us the earth in which we could be planted, emerging, transformed. One day I was taking class from Gelsey Kirkland, who, Madam would have hated that. She asked me, "Who trained you?" I said, "Madam Darvash," and she made a sharp inhale of recognition. Her eyes got wide. I read a lot in her expression. Respect for this great teacher who had given me the keys to ballet. The keys to a black person, which was controversial at the time and in some ways still is. Towards the end of Madam's life, I saw her one last time in a dream. I'd stopped teaching ballet for a few years during COVID. In the dream, I approached several illuminated beings, the ballet gods, and I gave them back my robe of mastery. They were confused. No one had ever given back the robe. But I felt like I'd done all I could, and I never thought it was mine to keep, only to safeguard for a while. Amidst that confusion, Madam appeared, and she said, "Let her keep her robe." And so it is. Thank you, Madam. Your work lives on in me and in all of us.
Does everyone have their hankies now? Okay. Danielle Lehsten and Moira Dorsey also both studied with Madam in the 1980s. In their previous lives, they were professional ballerinas in the US and Europe. In their second careers, Danielle is co-owner of Crimper's Climbing Gym and with a national reputation, and Moira is an executive consultant for Fortune 500 companies, and they're here to share a little bit of their story.
Hello, everyone. I sort of wish I could dance this instead of talk. But I guess I just thought of what Madam would say would be, "Davai, Sasha." And I fear for Sasha. Do you remember how much she yelled it for Sasha? So I came in the 80s, maybe 82, 83, and I was 13 or 14 years old. I was at SAB, and I kept getting injured, which I forgot, Juditka, you spoke about that. And so I saw Madame Darvash, and it just fit, an immediate fit with her. And so I'm just going to read a little bit about what I wrote. So the deep impact Madame Darvash had on my life is so profound that what she taught me, exposed me to, and brought to life within me still impacts me daily. I can imagine everyone now and then you're like, "Whoa, God, Madam, kill me for that." Right? You go through life with like, what would she think? What would she say? So she created a very rare and special community within the vastness of New York City. It was this special fairy tale place where we came and we could finally be ourselves. It was a community filled with the most eclectic, brilliant people who came together through the love of ballet and movement. And Mindy, I talked to her before, you would watch Mindy in class and it would just be astounding. But what I love to do is to watch Madame Darvash when she was watching her dancers. She would watch Mindy and her face would just be lit up. So I loved ballet and Madame Darvash so much I just dropped out of high school. I immersed myself in that. I got a GED and I've got a Harvard degree, so I'm okay. I dropped out of high school and immersed myself in Madame Darvash's culture of artistry, music, history, people, drama, and ballet. This magic all happened in this little studio with a huge column dead center. It was the greatest learning experience, and it made me who I am today. And because of that column, we could all dance around big obstacles because of Madame. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lynne. Yeah, I wish I could dance this too, because I don't know, somebody said that a dancer's worst nightmare is public speaking. I can attest to that. So I'm gonna read, if that's okay with you. So when we invited people to share their memories of Madame, we heard from so many of you who are here today, and many who really, really, really wanted to be here today, but simply couldn't. And we're very grateful for all that you shared. Thank you so much. And I'm here today to share just a few excerpts of what you wrote. And while each of our stories is unique, I'm sure that you won't be surprised to hear there were some common themes. And one that came up again and again was that Madame was one of a kind. She was a force of nature with very, very strong points of view about many things. And as one of you put it, Madame was an icon, inimitable. No one was like her. Madame firmly believed that ballet technique could be learned by anyone. And one of you quoted her as saying, ballet is an art, but the technique of ballet is a science. She taught us physics and anatomy and believed that anyone who studied with her could and should better understand and improve their technique, not only those born with natural facility. One person put it this way: the Darvash technique utterly transformed me. Not only did I become much stronger in my technique, but I also grew much stronger in my confidence as a dancer and as an artist. So many of us wrote some version of this sentence: I would not have had the career I have without Madame. Many people also shared that Madame was like a second mother. She cared about each of her students as a whole human being, about our well-being, about who we were becoming, and aspects of our education beyond our dance training. As one of you put it, her teachings were all-encompassing, not just in the studio, but in the heart and soul. Madame has had a lasting impact, not only on our careers, but on our lives. She gave us, as one of you wrote, life lessons I didn't know I needed. Another said, I learned how to learn from her. I learned how to learn from her. And another said, she taught me to be intelligent in all of my choices. We all learned and gained so much from Madame, and as she often promised, many times, we carry her voice with us. Person after person wrote the same 7 words. I still hear her in my head. Madame became part of all of us long before she left us. And her legacy lives on in us all. Thank you.
the moment you've all been waiting for. Longtime student Robert Bianca made his mark across the U.S. in theater dance as a performer, teacher, and director. But many of us remember him for how he could make Madam crack up. Bobby, where are you? Come on up.
Oh, the days of Madame Darvash, right? Oh my God. What, it's like the end of the century or something. It's ridiculous. My situation was a little different. I started dancing in my junior year, would have been my junior year of college. So I had it in my head, I had to be a dancer all of a sudden, you know.
Bobby.
What? Oh, so.
Yes.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, so I went to SUNY Purchase as a beginner dancer. And basically the message was, you suck, you're terrible. And I met this great friend of Madame Darvash's, Rosanna Saravalli, and she said, Bobby, honey, she said, you started really late. She goes, and we're not going to give you what you need here. You're not going to get the training that you need here. And I was just, you know, I didn't, any kind of like negativity, I didn't even, it rolled over in my head. I was never thought I was being criticized because I wanted to do it so much. So I said, okay, Madame Darvash. And you know, that was the first time I heard the name. So I go immediately to Madame Darvash on a weekend, right? And I'm sure you remember the first time you met Madame Darvash. And I was like, what? I just could not, I was like, you know, because I met a few teachers and they would say this and square hip and this and you gotta do that and you gotta do this and, you know, and I was trying to absorb it, but I really, really did suck and I really had no idea, you know. And so I meet her and I think, oh my God, who is this person? I cannot believe I have never met any teacher, not any teacher since, now, then, whenever, that is her equal in her subject. I said, I could tell in 5 minutes, I was like, oh my God, this woman's gonna do it for me. This woman's gonna make me a dancer. This woman's gonna help me become a dancer. You know, I thought, how is someone that smart? How is someone that clear with that thick accent? How does someone know every detail on every corner at every situation in such depth? I just couldn't even believe it. Then of course, her personality, right? And I was like, oh my God, you know, I thank God I had a good sense of humor, because you know, with Madam, you know, Bobby, honey, your feet look like irons, you know, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you're sensitive, or maybe if you're a professional dancer, maybe, but I was just, any information I could get, I had to have, you know, when she starts and Bobby, honey, you know, you coming in, and when you first meet her, you're like, where are you from, honey? I'm just like, well, you know, Rosanna sent me. She goes, oh, good deal. She goes, well, let's see, you know, and of course, it begins, you know, and it's tragic at first because I think the only class I could take schedule-wise with work and everything was an advanced class in the morning. Okay, wait, many people did it, so let's face it. So I would be like, for, you know, in the advanced ballet class, you know, all of a sudden I realized everyone's got their special spot, everyone's got their special thing, and I had to have my special spot, you know. And with Madam though, if you listen a little, because you know, if you didn't listen, she'd say, honey, don't you tell anyone you've ever studied in my school. But if you listened a little to Madam, there's no way you could improve. There's just, like, you'd have to be the moron of all time, and she had a few of those. But you'd have to be the moron of all time to not improve with Madam. In every aspect of dance. It wasn't just ballet trained, you know, she was an artist, she was a genius, she was a true genius, she was a visionary. She saw it different. People would say, oh, you studied Madame Darvash, oh, one of those Russian teachers. I'm like, no, no. She's not like anyone you've ever met. She is true. People talk about integrity. Madam lived integrity. She never once budged. She never once gave in. She never did one thing that could have perpetuated her forward commercially, even though what I always felt for her was a frustration, because I feel where she came from, she had much more power or much more expansive community where she was truly appreciated, not just as a teacher, which she was the best teacher, but she also was a true artist. And I always felt if I could change it for you, madam, I would make you the director of ABT, because you go see ballets, and with her knowledge and with her artistry and with her attention to detail and every aspect of it, you're like, she would make this all better. She would make it all better. And I would feel that frustration in her, and I think, why can't I? But on the other hand, how many times I would go in the studio with her and I'd say, madam, this is a friend of yours. You can't be dishing it right this second. You've got to stop. Because she felt she had the right to say it. Guess what? She did have the right to say it. She was better. She was smarter. She was a greater artist. She was the true great artist. Today, I still think of her exactly the same way. And she was insufferable at times, correct? She tortured everyone. And the only people she didn't torture Judy Fugate. She didn't torture Jody. Did she torture Judy Fugate? Never. No. She didn't torture Jody Fugate, because Jody Fugate would have beat her up. And that's I'm thinking that's the two in the whole episode of Madame Darvash's life that she let us all. I remember one son said to me, "Oh, Bobby, but you can get along with Madame, and you're so funny, and you could talk to her." I said, "Oh yeah, now you should have heard the way she used to talk to me, with the first 3 or and when I finally was with her for about 3 years, we were walking to somewhere, Apple Jacks or something for cheese blintzes or something, whatever she always did, and she was like, "Bobby, honey, you've gotten very good." She said, "Do you think it was talent, or do you think it was the training?" And I was like, "You know what, madam?" I said, "Of course it was a lot the training, I like to think I wasn't just a complete idiot trying to dance, but, it was the training, and part the training, right? Cheryl, part the training. But she was as strong as she was, as definitive in her opinions as she was, in everything. She was a very vulnerable person, and you could feel it. And if you could help her, you would. To the very end, she was teaching these pickup classes up in the Upper West Side, and Lainey, who's not here, said, "Bobby, come take Madam's class." I hadn't taken 20 years, right? I was like, I don't know, my mother had just passed away. I was like, oh my God, whatever. So I'm like, I'll go up and take these classes. The hell was I thinking, Lynne? The hell was I thinking? So you go in, she had this new beginning. Remember how she used to start? Where you face the Sweeney Tondu and Tom Daniels. Well, now it was a new back, forth, up, down. And I'm like, Madam, what, wearing big baggy clothes, and you're trying everything, and I'm like, oh my God, what is she doing, But anyway, so we're taking these classes, and luckily we were doing Ramberset, right? Getting back, just the point with that is, so my training, I only trained with Madame. That was my way. I didn't train before, these brilliant women did, and I think some of the guys were like that too. I trained with Madame. That was the only real style of ballet technique, that approach. So I did a Ramberset, member, and I was so out of shape and tortured. And she goes, "Bobby, honey, that's it. God bless you." All of a sudden, and then other people in class who hadn't studied with her, she sort of gave them the same. I remember saying to my friend, "You know what, Matt?" And I was lying, but I go, "Don't feel so bad, because Madame's not right about everything." And I was thinking, Madame is right about that, but I can't tell you. But anyway, I was saying, so there was this young guy who was a dancer. He was in theater. He was a dancer, already working professionally, but not trained in Madame's way, and his ballet, whatever. But she decided. This is 12 years ago. She decided that this was her project. You know how she had a project. She convinced this guy to meet her an hour before every class. By the third, fourth day, and he was really trying, and he really was inspired by her, like anyone really is. If you're a good dancer, you kind of take it. I don't know if maybe at some point you can't take it, but most of the time if you see her, you think, you know what? It doesn't matter, because she's so brilliant. So he's trying hard. And by the fourth day, she's like, "Honey, what da da da," and she's in his face and screaming. And I said to Madam, how in the world would he absorb your complete approach to dance in 4 days? "I know, honey, but I tell," Madam, it's 4 days. And we go out to lunch, and then she'd be out to dinner, and you know how she'd always fixing honey, the dance world. I don't know, I think it's sad. And what's sad about that is sometimes I felt she thought it for herself, it wasn't what it could be, because she wasn't expressing what she could, because she was a fabulous choreographer. But I wish she knew, because you know what, you really couldn't tell her anyway. But I wish she knew how much she really was appreciated, how much she really was revered, how much people really did think she was the genius, the artist, everything that we thought she was. I always wish, and I would tell her a million times, so back to that point they made, in 2002, I was the one that I directed this thing called the Astaire Awards, and we had to pick 4 teachers. We decided to pick 4 teachers that represented Broadway. We had Luigi, of course, Madam, of course. There's a billion ballet teachers, but she was my teacher, so I had the power to do it. Phil Black, and Chuck Kelly. And she said to me, honey, but they really only picked me because you knew me. I said, no, madam, you don't understand. You don't understand how valuable and great you are. And we told her a million times, but she came, listen to her life as a child, and then listen to where she went as the director of like a Lincoln Center in her country, and then to come here. Not that teaching is not a phenomenal thing, and not she helped. I don't know if this story is not appropriate to tell, but I'm going to tell it. She got Judy Fugate to be a principal dancer with New York City Ballet because she did Giselle for Judy. Judy, who is a stunning dancer, we all knew she was a stunning dancer, an incredible dancer, was stuck at soloist. Not that that's bad either, I don't want to make it seem like that's bad, but she was soloist for years, and they would never promote her to principal dancer. And Madam said, we're going to do Giselle. And of course, Judy, excuse me the language, killed it. It was amazing, was stunning, and with Madam's tutelage. And they promoted her to principal dancer after that because her reviews in the New York Times were so glowing. So Madam, we know how brilliant you were. I'm supposed to say her little phrases and stuff, but we know her phrases. Like you have a hole in the popo, honey. And black. Oh, she said to Mickey once, Mickey forgot a step. Remember Mickey and Marco? Blackout in Tokyo. And your feet are irons, and this one's that one. And remember the great question, Mindy? Honey, I thought it was a trick question. My first couple years there. Honey, is suit to new entraîneur a turn? I thought that was a trick. Like, no? What is it, honey? Then a pancake? Like she was unfathomable that I would, I thought she was tricking me till I realized she was later. And then I got her, and then I'd be like, oh, madam, when she'd be carrying on about something, she'd go, Bobby, honey, because, that's what I should have been doing the whole time, settle down. But anyway, so I just want to say that I couldn't love her more, appreciate her more. I feel everyone feels exactly the same way. There was no one like her. She was a true artist of the highest order in her own category. And I feel like you can see in the faces, but just, and I've worked with some fabulous people too, but she just there wasn't 1 ounce of artificial anything moment. And let's face it, Madam was not always the kindest, but she was absolutely the most caring. So, Madam, we love you. We miss you. Sorry to do this stuff. What else is
So, next up, we'd love to invite Glenn Allen Sims and Linda Celeste Sims, who represent the last generation of professional dancers that Madam impacted. They made their careers dancing with Alvin, Ailey, American Dance Theater for 2 decades. And now, Glenn Allen Sims is on his way to becoming VP of, oh my goodness, I don't have the, hold on. Drum roll. Nope, don't have it. You'll say it. And also, Linda Celeste teaches at Ailey and also is professor at SUNY Purchase. So please come on up and share with us.
1 second. I turned 50. At the age of 40, I wear readers. So I can't see my phone without having my readers on. So I'll start off by saying, I met Madam, I heard of Madam years before I met Madam. I grew up in the Jersey Shore, Long Branch, New Jersey. I started training at the Academy of Dance Arts, and some of the girls in my dance school would come into the city Broadway Dance Center and take Madam's class. And they revered her, and so by the time I got to Juilliard, I heard this name, Madame Darvash, and I was so scared to ever take her class in my free time outside of being in the studio at Juilliard. So, Lynne will probably have the dates. She's really good with dates. So, from the very first day in the studio with Madame Darvash, I was already in the Ailey company doing her ballet intensive with the Ailey extension. She gave me something I didn't know I needed, a second chance. And I say this because in my ballet studio, it was already based, and they tuck you under, they make you do all these different things, and your body type is, like your muscles get bigger, and Madam always talked about it. If you use these muscles, your quads will get bigger. If you keep tucking under, this is gonna get bigger. But if you release the popo a little bit, it actually eases off, and like in the front of your hips get longer and everything else. Anyway, so in my ballet studio, I would be the guy stretching the girls all the time, and when it came time for them to stretch me, they would have to like use their whole entire bodies, but my legs, like my front extension could never go up. My side extension never went up. Which brings me to my second chance. I didn't believe her until she lifted my leg in Ailey. And by that time, she was older in age too, and I thought my legs were big and heavy, right? Because the girls in my ballet school that were young could not pick my leg up. So, she holds my leg in Ailey, tells me to shift my weight over onto my standing leg, so the weight's on the front or the ball of the foot. Shift the hip, and the leg became so free, and the extension got so high that I was just floored. She then requested me to move. I said all that. Sorry, just say it again, I'll say it again. Which was so unusual because we were trained to like be square in our hips, always so square. And then suddenly my legs were higher and lighter than I ever imagined. I was stunned. During my years with the Ailey company, we had privates with her, and it was the company members, a small group, and some of the people here were like in class with us in the morning. During our season, it was truly the best experience. She gave us brilliant classes that kept us warm, long, and ready for any style of dance. But what made it unforgettable was the intimacy. She always joked about how she had brainwashed us. And most honestly, she did. In the most inspiring, transformative way. I am eternally grateful to have met Madam and her family. Madam will always be held dear to our heart and my family. She met our son when he was younger. We would go over for food. Whenever we had performances at NJPAC, she would come out with us, watch the performance, give critiques on the way back home. We drop her off in Queens. We spent a lot of intimate time with her outside of just being in the studio, and I am so eternally grateful that I have met her. She has changed my life, and even when I do teach dance, I tell the young dancers that dance is a visual art, because that's how the only way that we can self-correct ourselves is by looking in the mirror. And she always instituted that into us in like every class that we had. So thank you, Madam. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for providing this moment for her as well with everyone here in the city.
I'm not 50.
So 49.
Oh. This is
Ellington. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I am going to speak a little bit from my heart as well, kind of at the same time with Glenn, just kind of tying that in. But for me, I try not to do that. Sorry, it's going to be hard for me, okay? It's been hard to sit there and listen to everyone. I've been choked up the whole time. So just please, just give me a little bit of grace. It has been truly an honor just to even stand here to speak about Madame Darvash and the profound impact that she has had on my life as a dancer. Okay, so the first time I met Madame was, we were actually newly moved into this building. It was 2005, and then we met her in 2006, that January. And we had just finished our City Center season of 5 weeks, very intensive performances, as you know. And then we had just started our break in January. One of the dancers had reached out to me because she was about to learn one of the solos that I was already currently performing, which is episodes, Ulysses Dove work. And they told her, you're gonna learn the solo. And she said, Linda, you have to come coach me. I said, okay, sure, why not? And she said, well, I'll reserve a studio and, this is the time I'm gonna start the rehearsal, but I'm gonna get there a little bit early. I had no idea what Madame Darvash was at this point at all. And she said, there's this lady teaching, ballet class. And I said, but the school's closed, like what ballet class are you taking? She goes, no, it's the extension program. They have a lady named Darvash and she's gonna be there for 3 weeks. And I'm like, okay, you're gonna warm up before rehearsal? I was like, okay, maybe I'll get out of the bed and go with you too. So I came in sweats, not my typical thing to do for class, but I was like incognito, I've just had a hard, season. And I came in sweatpants and, sweatshirt. I think I had a leotard underneath, but I came in and I remember I was like back corner of Studio 1C downstairs, which is the one you see when you walk in. And I was very in the corner, like barely any room for me because the room was packed. And I remember just kind of being in my own self, taking my time. At this point, I think she did start with the parallel at this point. Because you have to warm up your parallel muscles before you turn out. So I'm like, what am I doing? This is ballet class. Okay, so I'm doing all of this. And I could tell she was kind of like looking at me in certain places of the room. And I was like, who's this lady? Anyway, it came time to balance, and I was in passe, and I was trying to balance my leg, and I'm kind of like doing one of those like up and up and up with the bar. I wasn't quite there, and she walked right by me, and she goes, and I gave her that I'm focused, I see you, but I'm focusing. And she goes, straighten your knee. And I was like, lady, in my head, I was not a diva. I love correction, but at this point, I'm like, what is she talking about? My knee is goop. And I was like, oh my God, my knee was not straight. And I'm like, at this point, I'm already 10 years into the company. I'm, in my late 20s. And I was like, she just corrected my knee with sweatpants on. So then we did the other side. And I was like, wait a minute, let me see if this is going to happen on this side too. I sure did. I was tucking under. I didn't know what that was. I had trained floor bar with Zena Romet herself. I had good, proper-ish alignment, but there was still something missing. And you know what I'm talking about. In this company, I cannot tell you how many different styles we do. It's known to be a modern dance company, but let me tell you, sweetheart, I could put a box on right now and show you some. We did all styles of dance. And that was the difficulty of being in this company was how can you do African dance and then get back on a releve, tilt, and hold that obstacle. So I felt the knee thing. And I was like, she's into something. I could hear, like the power in her voice. It was like she didn't have to scream. There was like this under gut thing that she knew what she was talking about. And after hearing all of you in these generations, she's at the, I want to say, experienced, well-seasoned teacher, professor. At this point, she's seen it all. So she was like really, I could hear it in her voice. So anyway, I took off my sweats. I tightened those pants as much as I could. And I was like, she's into something. And I went straight in, front center. I was listening to all her corrections. My arms are so she always corrected that. I listened to everything. And then that was it, rehearsal, I go home. The next day I wake up, I'm having coffee in my kitchen, and my husband goes, Linda, what are you doing? What did you do? I was like, coffee? I'm drinking coffee? He goes, no, look at your legs. And we have this huge mirror in the living room. And I turned around and I stared at my legs. And I was like, what are you talking? And my legs. And I want to cry because I'm hearing Tai. I'm hearing all of you say these things. I wanted to be a ballerina, but I was never born with hyperextended legs. I never had arched feet. I was just muscle strong. But Madam would say, you have the body of the gods. And just watching my legs just transform in one class, how is that possible? The space between the joint, the muscles release. I didn't have that like roundness. And I'm not talking about I was big. It's just the muscles took a whole different shape. And I said, oh my gosh. And I remember feeling myself, I'm not even sore. And we literally did a warm-up jump that was about a minute long. It went on, and you turned around, and you still, it's a warm-up jump? I'm like, we're doing it for like a minute. It's not even did a leg roll yet. And I was not sore. I was very, I would like to say I was I was smart. Because I knew that she had something that I needed at that point. It was like the next go of the career. I am standing here with no surgery, no injuries for 26 professional years. I'm not talking about training. I'm not adding my training where I was tucking under and they were making me do all that because I had a little popo and my popo was bigger now. It wasn't a big one. But it was just like push, force, and I was balancing train. I did Pennsylvania ballet, all of that. But you were like, I'm going tomorrow. We were there the next day for the next 2.5 weeks, like, yes. And it just felt amazing to be able to stand in the studio and love and look in the mirror and love my body. Love it. All these years at 20, I didn't even love myself at that capacity, you know. I knew I was talented, I could do things, but not in this kind of refined way. You know, I loved everything I did. So now back to what I wrote. I deviated a little bit there, but I say that because she taught me so much. And, you know, I remember, you know, the way you looked at me that morning, and I was like, how did you know that we were married for almost like 8-9 years at this point. So he knew and had watched me dance, how my body transformed in just one class. No longer was I gonna tuck, no longer was I gonna sit in my hips. So for me, working with Madam was one of the most transformative experiences of my dance career. She was far more than a ballet coach. She was a mentor who taught me how to truly understand my body. Through her deep knowledge of body mechanics, she helped me move more intelligently, efficiently, and safely, which changed not only how I dance, but how I approach my training as a professional. Her influence on my career couldn't be overstated. Remember, I had, you know, many like 2 sentences reviews, but when I worked with Madam, they were page long. And I remember reading them that I couldn't believe someone would write something like that about someone. So it was a lot for me. So the lessons she shared continue to live in my body every time I step into the studio. I can hear her in my head when I'm teaching, no matter the technique, whether it's ballet, whether it's Horton. Her influence continues to live in my work every day. And I always continue her legacy and always will continue her legacy to the next generation. I am endlessly grateful for her mentorship, her wisdom, and the standard of excellence that she instilled in me. And working with Madam was truly a gift, and her impact will remain a part of my dance journey, whether it's back on stage, teaching, forever. Yeah, I love Madam.
And last but not least, I'm going to call up Mira Rivera, who studied with Madam while dancing with Martha Graham Dance Company. And her journey led her down a spiritual path, She is the first Filipina-American woman to be ordained at the Jewish Theological Seminary, and Rabbi Mira will lead us in traditional Jewish prayers of mourning.
So I bring with me my kippah, because I will be doing blessings, and my talit, my prayer shawl, just in respect for Safta Gabi, for Gabriela, Taub, Darvash. But first, I was in that studio that day, that first class, with when Madam went behind Glenn and said, like this, she approached this pulpit. See this? And I thought, oh my gosh, she's gonna do something completely inappropriate now. and then exactly the story that you said, move this, and she had the leg here, it was heavy, and it was parallel to the ground. And he said, move this. I saw it literally in front of my eyes, so witness. I saw it, and I will forever in my day just see this, observing her as a teacher. So this is what I used to hear. Mira, stay with the music, or else you have to marry a conductor. So at Martha Graham, we were trained to attack movement. And a lot of the movement was so percussive. So that to get to the music, to be in sync with the music for that hit, you had to start a nanosecond. So when I would take her classes, I came with that thinking. And of course, it was wrong. She was not entirely fond of Graham technique. She would say a lot of things, like there's so much just standing. But that's what I came for in New York. I was obsessed. But 1-800 Darvash, common sense. That I took to the Graham world. It certainly applied. Now my teacher there, my mentor, Yuriko Kikuchi of blessed memory, at that time was reconstructing early choreographies for 13 women. This was the time of Martha's career when there were no men in the company, 13 women. So I was part of a lot of those reconstructions and first mountings. So I would take Madam's class with all the jumps and all of that, and great petit allegro would be my body would be singing like a Stradivarius. I just felt like that, but it was a secret. And I would walk into rehearsal and not just survive, but actually thrive. My only injuries would come from like slipping in point shoes, but through Graham, I didn't suffer knees, hips, none of that. Everybody had big thighs, but she had taught us, do not jump from first into like a really wide second, which is what we did in the modern dance world. Just stay in the back, just get your jumps high, but don't ever do that. So even my mentor knew that I was not spending all the politically required hours at Martha Graham, but this double life worked. Both told me, keep your mouth shut, use your eyes and your ears. Most importantly, be a mensch, be a cavalier. Right? Remember she said, be a cavalier in class and in the studio and on the stage. Produce, do not attract the evil eye. But back at Broadway Dance Center, she would still again say, Mira, stay with the music or else you have to marry a conductor. So I dated Jerry Corman, a pianist, a conductor, and Jewish. Madam too was Jewish. But she would say, Mireshka, you don't have to convert. See, I'm religious, but my Stefan, the nice Catholic man, we are happy. So what did I do? I converted. And Madam was my mother figure at our wedding. She came to Passover, to our apartment on the Upper West Side for many years. Call me Safta Gabi, she would say to everyone. Safta means grandma. Call me Safta Gabi. Dispensing all her wisdom. You take a pea, you throw it on the wall. If it sticks, there were no women rabbis in her life. And she would say, but in Transylvania, everyone was a rabbi. She was my mother at a time when I had no mother who would come to my wedding. Madam guided me through injuries, got me dancing after a miscarriage, got me through 2 pregnancies. Some of you remember me with my pregnancies moving through space, and when I was not in class, that was because I was giving birth. 1-800 Darvash for common sense. Gabriela of blessed memory. Now in Hebrew, Gabriela means mighty woman of God. El is the name of God. But Rabbi Seth Adelson, lovely spouse of Juditka, reminded us that Taub is also Tova. It's a variant of Tova in Hebrew, which means goodness. And there's this prayer we say every time, like after a meal, Hu hated, Hu meitiv, Hu yetiv lanu. God did good things for us in the past. God does good for us now, and God will continue to do good for us in the future. And this was Gabriela. I could never ever even say that. She was Safta Gabi, she was Madam. And if you will permit me, I will put my prayer shawl on, and I will invoke El Mal Rachamim, which is a prayer, a reminder of a soul that has left us. If you're so moved, please stand with me. First, I'll say it in English, and there will be an amen afterwards. And then I will sing it, I will chant it in Hebrew, and I will include her name in Hebrew. And then there will be another amen. Exalted, compassionate, divine one, O God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering peace, your presence, among the holy and the pure, the soul of Gabriela Taub Darvash, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that your loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace, where her soul be bound up in the bond of life, and may she rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
El Mal Rachamim שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע המזרים את נשמת גבריאלה, טובה בת טובה לזר, שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן, תהא מנחתו. אנא בעל רחמים הסתירהו בסר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו, Adonai, unakalato, v'yanuach b'shalom, al miskafo, v'nomar, Amen. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life, and may Gabriela, Tova, Taub Darvash be in rest. And we all say Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. There's a paper. Ah, my gosh, I found it. Okay. It's now my job to bring us all home. I have some thank yous. And it occurs to me that first I need to thank Madam one last time for bringing us all together in life and today. Second, I have to thank Judy, who just about a year ago today, you were in town and she said, I have an idea. What do you think? And I said, absolutely. And it's been a joy working with you on this. And then from there, I have to thank all of you, including everybody who couldn't be here today, for everything that you contributed and for being here with us. I have to thank the team at Alvin, Ailey, Alric Hahn, and Jason Hill and their team for welcoming us here at the Ailey Studios and supporting us across many weeks of planning. I want to thank again all of our speakers for all of the amazing things that you shared today, and also our stage manager, Marcos. I will also mention, in the middle of the thank yous, we have more video. We only showed you about half of the video, but since we're running a little long and we want to save some time for schmoozing, we're gonna just run that during the schmoozing time. Also have to thank all the volunteers who helped us set up today, Mindy, Tony, Yukimi, and Jacqueline. And preparing for today was a group effort, as I said. Thank you, all of you, every single one of you who sourced photos and memories. Whether you're here in person or not, we truly appreciate it. And we have to give an extra special thank you to Anthony and Danita for sharing video, because that takes quite a lot of extra work to upload videos. Thanks to those of us who helped get the word out, Linda, Kate, Tony, and Lisa. And importantly, I have to thank our families, both Judy's and mine, who all just pitched in and are pitching in right now to do whatever we needed them to do. When this is all over, the video that's currently being recorded will be posted online. We'll let you know when it's available. We do have a sheet that will ask you to check and make sure we have the correct contact info for you. And without further ado, well, just maybe one more thing. Please stick around for some schmoozing in the back of the room. We have food and drinks. How long do we have?
We have until 4 o'clock officially,
We have until 4 o'clock officially.
and we will move.
I'm sure that the time we have here is not enough, and we will move the party to Faces and Names, which is a bar. I will make sure to announce the address, and hope everyone can join us for some more drinks and more schmoozing then.
Perfect, thank you. Very last thing now, I promise. Before everybody disperses and starts talking, as soon as we wrap up here, could everybody come to the front of the room so we could capture one large group photo of everybody? And with that, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Right now, let's group up.